I'm Paul Elliott with Hashrocket TV, and I'm here with Wayne Seguin, who you know from RVM and other things. Now, RVM it's a pretty old project now, at least in the Rails world.
Yes.
And it's gotten to a point of maturity. I feel like it's really stable. We use it at Hashrocket all the time on all of our dev workstations and the pairing stations and everything, and we love it. Now, what has your experience been getting it to there? Because remember in the very beginning, it was kind of rocky. There were some bugs and things, and what did it take to get from there to where you are now?
An insane amount of time and perseverance.
Yeah?
Yeah. Probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do is help people debug their systems remotely using only text communication, like on IRC. You know, can you do this and gist it for me? Okay, I'm going to look through these massive traces, and I want to find what I think is the issue. Ask them to change. I'll change something in RVM, commit push, tell them, okay, get head. They get head, and then they try again, and it'll fix it, or a new error, and then you just go back and forth. Or the fun ones are when it's not an RVM issue at all, but instead,
like the issue you helped me fix had nothing to do with RVM.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, I do actually spend a lot of time helping people with like just Ruby questions or Rails questions, or Rails tutorial is just an amazing project, and I think I'm super glad that Michael won the Ruby Heroes Award for it. He deserves it. However, I do end up spending a lot of time answering questions about it in my channel, and thankfully lately I've had several people in IRC stepping up to help out answer those questions.
That's great.
That I appreciate a lot, because it kind of like helps with my sanity level.
So if people want to give back to the RVM project, is that what you would recommend?
Yes.
Answering questions in IRC, Stack Overflow?
Help answer questions, and if you don't know the answer to the question but you'd like to help somebody with something, go into the channel and ask, and if nobody knows, then ask me, and I will answer, and I'll help you figure it out. But you know, if people can kind of field all the simple questions, that would be incredibly helpful, because I end up like repeating myself a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a lot, a lot of times it's like, okay, go read this page in the documentation, which I don't have a problem with, but you know, a lot of people don't start. Most people don't even read the installer output when their question was actually answered in there.
Oh yeah.
Or if they had read it, they would have known to do RVM notes and install the packages for their operating system. I get a lot of Ubuntu users that do that. They don't read it, and then they're like, it's not working. Okay, do RVM notes, install your packages like zlib devel or dev or whatever it is, and then then they remove and reinstall the Ruby, and oh wow, it worked. Most recently, there was this guy like a day ago. He comes up to me and he's like, "Oh, 187 compiled fine, but 192 is blowing up." And so I'm like, the first thing I said was, he kind of showed me the make log or the configure log, and I'm looking at it and I go, "Do you have Mac ports installed?" He's like, I used to. So he looks, he's got the old directory there. He's like, "Oh, I don't even use it." I was like, "Okay, remove that." He removes it. He's like, "Oh, I got further, new error, SQL Lite." Oh, so he was trying to compile a 64-bit Ruby, and he had an old 32-bit SQL Lite library in user local. So I'm like, all right, run this remove command. It removed the old SQL Lite libraries, and then he reinstalled the Ruby, and it worked.
That's great.
So it's just a lot of that.
All right. Now, all your experience with RVM has led up to another project that you're working on now.
Yes.
BDSM?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So BDSM currently stands for the Bash Delectable Scripting Modules, and what it is it is a system-level scripting framework. So you're not going to use it to like write an application or a web server or anything like that. It's for like system-level scripting, managing things on OS X or Linux or BSD servers. Basically Unix servers or Starnix. And it's composed of three parts. You have the core, which is essentially just a small shim, just enough code to launch what's called an extension. And then BDSM itself in the core is actually just a set of extensions. So there's the core extension, the modules extension, the extension, and there's several of them.
Okay.
And the extensions basically are packaged or namespaced sets of scripts. And so, like, for example, a good example of this would be like, let's say you want to have commands that control Redis. You want to be able to install Redis with some scripts. You want to be able to start Redis with some scripts, get its status. So that there's a Redis extension, and what it is it's a directory named Redis with a bin directory inside of it, and then executable scripts. So like start, stop, restart, install.
Okay.
So when I do BDSM extend Redis, it grabs that tarball package or pulls from the Git repository with the extensions and installs the extension. So then you can then run BDSM Redis install. It installs Redis. BDSM Redis start. It starts Redis. BDSM Redis status. It lists the status. It's running. Its PID is this. The real memory size, the virtual memory size, the state, sleeping, whatever. And then any shared libraries it has open up, any log files it has open up, any ports it has open up, like 6379 or whatever it happens to be.
That sounds great for sysadmins.
It is.
So that allows you to have one kind of place where you can manage and watch all the services and daemons and things that are running your system that are installed through that. Is that fair to say?
Well, that's if you're using the service module.
Okay.
So now it's a scripting framework. Okay.
Sure.
So these extensions can be anything you want. They should basically be bundled sets of scripts that allow you to have common functionality or common theme. So everything dealing with Nginx, I want in the Nginx extension. Everything dealing with Redis in this extension. I have a Rails extension. I have a deploy extension. The only thing that's responsible for is deploying code. It does not care whether it's deploying Ruby code or whatever. It just wants to deploy, right? Obviously, I started with Ruby because that's what I focus on. And then what you do, so these extensions can be any kind of functionality that you would do as a script at the system level. So if you have scripts, normally you write scripts to do one-off little things, and they're located all over your file system. You have to remember where they are. Are they in user local bin? Are they in your home directory bin? Where are they, right? Well, this keeps them all together. It makes you packageable, shareable, distributable, and all of that stuff. Okay. And the modules are like, there's a file system module. So that's extensions. That's the idea behind extensions. The extensions use the modules to you could build the extensions using the modules. Modules are best thought of as like a standard library for shell scripting. So if you use the file system module, for example, you can say if directory underscore exists and give it a directory name, and then blah 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 blah, right?
Okay.
If you there's just all kinds of little things that you can do with that. There's an array module. You can say if array is non-empty, then instead of having to remember the bash syntax for finding the length of an array and testing if it's greater than 0 and all that stuff, no, you just call this DSL. And all these DSL methods have like every single failure case that I could think of at least tested, and it fails. It fails hard if they do that. And when it fails, it provides you with a stack trace, like Ruby stack traces in shell.
That's awesome. I know bash scripting is something that I've kind of shied away from because it's ugly and hard, or appears that way. And having that kind of DSL around it sounds like it makes it a lot more approachable to people that aren't.
That's actually the idea. Is if you're using this DSL, then not only do you get a cleaner syntax in readable code, but you also get a much easier debuggable code. So you have clean code, you have debuggable code, and it also helps you, like if like you go to call a function like directory exists and you forget to pass in the directory name, it actually says, hey, you forgot to pass in a directory name.
That's great.
And gives you the backtrace, so you know where you didn't do it. So that's a programming error. It fails hard, it fails immediately, and it tells you why.
Yeah.
And you can use this in your own code using like the fail construct or the error construct, or there's a debug. You can enable traces. You can enable set backtrace on, so that if any command fails, it gives you a backtrace to where it failed. And basically, I'm trying to eat the pain of shell scripting for everybody else by creating this framework where you can create very robust, very readable sets of scripts in these packages.
Yeah.
And then you can do like BDSM extension package. So you could do BDSM extension package, and it basically, and then like Redis, and it'll create a package directory with Redis, and then dash the version number that's defined in the extension, .tar, bz2.gz.xz, whatever. Right? And then you do BDSM extension publish this, and then it'll push it up to the extensions repository on your account or whatever.
That's
so
great.
I'm in the middle of creating an extensions website where people can share their extensions, kind of like Ruby Gem's idea.
Yeah.
Very similar. So
that's awesome. That sounds like it's gonna be a really, really useful thing for the
and
community.
then I was working with this great guy, Jay Timberman from the Chef Ops Code stuff. And anyways, he kind of sat down with me and helped me write a quick like chef recipe, for example. So the bash, the BDSM is basically single server, single system. I don't want to focus on anything but that for now. Right. And so what you do is you would manage your infrastructure with Chef or Puppet or whatever you want to use, right? And all you have to do with for those is you keep the code dead simple in there by saying, okay, you want to set up Redis. You just call out to the BDSM API for that. So the chef basically just needs to go BDSM Redis install, BDSM Redis, start, or whatever it happens to do. So that code becomes cleaner.
That's awesome.
And there's all kinds of error handling and checking and all this stuff built into BDSM. So system scripting the system is handled on the system scripting level, and you call out to an API that does all this stuff. And then you call out to that API from some central system to manage across all your servers. And so that's kind of where I'm going with this.
Okay, that's great. Well, we really appreciate everything you're doing for the Rails community. RVM and BDSM, these are both amazing products that have really transformed the way that we develop at Hashrocket. We really appreciate it. And thanks for your time.
Yay!